Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I wanted to talk to you about the latest episode of Loki Season 2. It was called Breaking Brad. And at the start of the episode, Loki and Mobius show up in London in 1977 dressed to the nines, but Loki suspects that Sylvie isn't there because everything is just too normal. They find themselves at a movie premiere where Hunter X5 is undercover as a movie star named Brad Wolf, hence the title of the episode, which is interesting because Brad Wolf almost seems like Bad Wolf, like a reference to Torchwood and Doctor Who. But anyway, they confront X5 and he runs, and he's even able to escape from Hunter B-15, but Loki eventually corners him and uses his magic to grab him. Morbius, Hunter B-15, and Loki then take X5, aka Brad, to the TVA where he's put in a cell until he's ready to tell them what he knows about Sylvie. Loki and Mobius take X5's TemPad to OB for analysis, and he gives them a book in which they can read about it. They're not able to make heads or tails of it, though, even with the book, so they go and interrogate X5 with Hunter B-15. X5, again, aka Brad, takes the piss out of Loki and tells him that he's a loser and that all he's trying to do is make up for the terrible things he's done in his life. And I was like, okay, yeah. And, like, what's wrong with that? Anyway, Loki seemingly takes it in stride and then gets a little medieval on X5, demanding to know where Sylvie is, but X5 declines to answer. And then he tells Mobius to control his pet before taking the piss out of Mobius, telling him he's nothing and that he needs to wake up. And Mobius takes it in less stride than Loki did and whacks him one. Then Loki and Mobius go for a piece of pie in the automat to kind of calm down and refocus, at which point Loki recants the events of the Avengers, where he held New York City hostage and threw Tony Stark off a building, to Mobius, explaining that sometimes our emotions just get the best of us. And he was doing that because he realizes that Mobius only whacked X5 because he lost his cool, and he didn't want him to feel bad about it. He then asks Mobius if he wants to know what his life was like before he got kidnapped by the TVA, and he says no, because the TVA is the only life he's ever known, and he also doesn't want to know that his life was better before, if in fact it was. Loki goes back to see X5 with Mobius, and they bring with them an apparatus, which Mobius leaves in the room with Loki after Loki tells Mobius he needs to go get the controller, and then locks him out of the room and reveals that he has the controller in his back pocket. X5 starts freaking out at this point, as it appears Loki's about to do a number on him with the machine without Mobius to rein him in. Loki then proceeds to encase X5 in some type of cube, which he starts shrinking bit by bit as X5 continues to say he doesn't know where Sylvie is until eventually he cracks, almost literally. Of course, Mobius was in on the whole thing, and they grab up X5 to make him show them where Sylvie is, since he's now revealed that he knows. It turns out that OB can't get into the temporal loom anymore, and that the only person who can is He Who Remains, unless Miss Minutes does it, but they don't have access to her anymore. And if they can't get in there to add some tech to it to make it able to accommodate the time branches, everything's going to go boom. Mobius, Loki, and X5 go to 1982 and the McDonald's where Sylvie is working. Loki approaches Sylvie, who's wearing an Ankh earring, interestingly. And I say interestingly because while DC Comics has an Ankh-based superhero in Dr. Fate, Marvel really doesn't. They have Doctor Strange, who, I don't know, may or may not interact with Ankh-related things. But aside from that, what is the Ankh a symbol of? It can't be random. It's got to mean something. I mean, in the world of music, there's the Ankh Warrior, but I'm sure that's not it. So I don't know. It's a mystery. Maybe it's nothing, but it seems like it would have to be a deliberate choice to give her that earring. I mean, it was costuming gave her that earring for a reason, so we'll have to see what it is. Anyway, she agrees to talk to him when she goes on break. He explained to her that while she may have made a life for herself in 1982, she ends up in the future at the TVA, and he wants to know why, but she says she has no intention of ever going there, so it's not going to happen. But he then explains that he's seen it, and that if He Who Remains isn't stopped, even the life she's made for herself will be destroyed. Apparently, it's even more dire than that because the hunters are going to bomb every branch and wipe it out under the direction of Miss Minutes. And just like that, Sylvie's back in the game, and she goes with Loki and Mobius to the Central Command area to try to stop the Minutemen from pruning the extra branches. The three of them take out a bunch of Minutemen, and then Loki and Sylvie join hands and blast the remaining few with a green cloud that takes them out. But the Minutemen still managed to blow up a bunch of timelines and with them a bunch of people, and left only a few extra branches, which devastates everyone, even Sylvie, who departs on her way back to her branch, assuming it's still there, over Loki's objection. It turns out that her branch does still exist, and she goes right back to it like nothing happened, though she is holding a piece of TVA tech when the screen cuts to black and the episode ends. So I liked this episode a whole lot. I was not too impressed with last week's premiere. I thought it was lackluster and just kind of a nothing burger, where this episode really had some punch to it. The whole part where they go back to 1977 and they have to chase Brad down, and then they interrogate him twice. The first time there was some really intense moments where he's taking the piss out of both Loki and Mobius, and it was interesting to watch Tom Hiddleston, play Loki during that scene where he's sort of just listening to this guy berate him and call him on his bullshit, which, he knows is all true. And he kind of has to swallow it because he's trying not to be evil. He doesn't want to go crazy on this guy, which he totally could have. So he just sort of, like I said, takes it in stride. And, he gets a little in his face after that, but he doesn't do anything crazy. So I just thought that was cool because, it's a redemption story, and the path to redemption isn't easy. And sometimes you have to face your bullshit repeatedly. And this was one of those moments. And I just thought it was a great character moment. I also thought it was great that he kind of gave Mobius a hard time and that Mobius punched him. And then, the other interrogation scene where Loki's, squeezing him in the box and, really sticking it to him. I thought that was a great scene. So I liked that a whole lot. The whole time Mobius is pretending, oh, he's trying to get back in the room to stop Loki, but really he's not. So I thought that was cool. And, I enjoyed the scene between Loki and Sylvie. I just think they have great chemistry. I like the Sylvie character. And when she learns that her little world might get destroyed, she jumps right back into action and reads X5's mind because he's not forthcoming with what's happening. He's kind of just being vague, and she just jumps up and grabs him and reads his mind and sees that the Minutemen are pruning all the timelines. And then she just switches on her, her Loki clothes and goes with Loki and Mobius to stop them. And I just thought that was a great moment. And the moment that followed where they're taking out all the Minutemen was great. And then when they realize that the Minutemen have destroyed a whole bunch of timelines and killed a bunch of people, they're all devastated. Loki, Mobius, Sylvie, B-15, and, the other people at the TVA. So I just thought that was really great. And I think this episode should have been the premiere. Like, I guess some of the story stuff they did in the last episode needed to be done, but I don't know. I almost wish they had sort of made short work of the important events from the first episode and condensed it so that maybe they could have had an episode that was an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes with only the important stuff from the actual premiere and then the complete second episode, because the first episode was just, I didn't think, very good, and it was a lousy season premiere. This would have been a great season premiere. So I really liked it. And, I'm glad, because I was worried that this season was going to stink if they were all going to be, episodes like the first one. This one even had more OB, which is always great. OB is good. He's good in this episode as well. So it just was a really good episode. And I'm pleased about that, because it means the rest of the episodes of the season could also be very good if they're of the same caliber. So there you go. That's really it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to review the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.